I'm on my computer right now and I'm not sure if it's working. But it is closed captioning. Is it working?
Recording in progress.
I've been. We're good. So Jenny can hear me now?
I can. I'm just not. I just can't see the board. Oh, now I can.
Well, I can see you fine.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to bring this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do you still want to go along with pulling up Clipper Ship first?
That probably makes the most sense, but it would be up to a majority vote of the board if you
All
wanted
right.
to amend the agenda.
I'd like to know if I have a motion to bring up Clipper Ship first on the interest of getting that done in a timely manner. I don't know how much time we're gonna have on that, or how much it's gonna take. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Ann? We're gonna do it one more time.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Jonathan Eaton, yes. Wilder,
Oh, yeah, Wilder, yes.
Yes.
Neil? Jenny?
sure.
Okay,
That sounds affirmative to me.
so have you got anything you want to interject on the Clipper Ship project to start?
Nope, nothing to add at this point. The applicant submitted some supplemental materials in your meeting packet that were included and posted on the town's website. Other than that, I don't have necessarily anything else to add, but I'm available to answer any questions. And then the applicant's team is available both in person and a couple via Zoom as well to answer questions if you have any.
Okay, as of last meeting, we voted that this application was complete.
I have one question, I think, Isabel, maybe.
Did-
Read material. What I read was a letter from State Department, some official above us, saying that as we digest this material and develop a position, comprehensive plan is not the document that we use, it's the town ordinances.
This one right here.
Did I read that correctly?
The relevant ordinance standards that I cited in my memo are the ones that you're reviewing this by. Yes, that was the applicant's attorney that wrote that memo. So if you wanted to hear, some background or any additional information, it might be appropriate for you to turn to them at that point.
Thank you.
Anyone clear on it?
Isabel.
Okay.
Well, that's what I thought, but I don't think we had talked about it. I'm all set now.
Well, like I said, we voted this application as being complete at the last meeting. These conditions that you had out.
I had a question about about the letter submitted by Jennifer Fox, Isabel. What was that? I'm kind of confused. Who is Jennifer Fox?
That is on a butter to the project who has been attending either some or all of the planning board meetings.
So she's saying that Maine DEP won't rule on the tier 1 wetland review.
I think her note was saying that that she had reached out to DEP to get some clarity about the timing of the review and was providing information about that she found and asked that her email was forwarded to the planning board. So I did so.
Mhm.
Do you have any questions, Ann?
No, I had that same one, so.
Okay. In looking at this, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but in looking at this project as a whole, and looking at the screening, a lot of the trees and stuff on the planting schedule and the screening of this project drop their leaves in the fall. And honestly, I'd really like to see, at least towards town, a more dense screening instead of possibly just one straight line of a mixture of fir trees and some oaks and some other things that are on the list, I'd probably be more apt to like to see, I don't know, you guys can interject on this too. A heavier screening with a denser character of something like spruces or something like that, that would be fairly fast growing and dense and not just one straight line, but possibly an alternating set so that you don't get the pass through as easily. So rather than one, pardon me,
Which side are you talking about?
I'm talking about, I'd also like to see some screening up against the York property, where you're coming real close. That's actually a pretty open area. But I'm actually talking about this section that goes towards School Street,
Okay, yeah,
you know,
yeah, I agree.
I would really like to see that more densely screened for a lot of reasons. I mean, I don't know if you guys.
Yeah. The applicants had sent a letter saying that they were going to they were willing to fund more landscaping. But I agree, it really should be evergreens, you know, fast growing evergreens.
And I think that a more densely, not dense as in putting close together, but a spread pattern of those trees so that you don't get the pass through between tree to tree. as
Right.
much. And screening towards the York property over there, I mean, that's been a pretty private residential area out there for a long time. Those people have been at the end of a dirt road with nobody around for a long time. I hate to see encroachment on their property. I mean, I don't know what y'all think about that. You guys kind of getting the idea of what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, this project is not in keeping with the character of rural areas in town. The scale of the project
The scale is,
and the nature.
but I also, given our ordinances, that is a presumption of character. I don't see how I can make a judgment that it is not. I mean, it is at least a one-story building, it is spread out. It's not a big box store looking thing. I mean, I don't love the size, I don't love the size of it. I'll be honest with you. I think it's pretty big, but you know, they have adhered to the ordinances that we have. And for me to make a judgment on whether that stands or not really isn't my right, honestly.
Well, the ordinances say that we do have specifics for what is it? Senior housing, more than 45 units, right? Isabel?
You wanna
Um,
elaborate on that?
Yeah, that would apply to a senior housing development project, like a multifamily dwelling unit project. And this is not being reviewed that way. This has been reviewed as a nursing care facility, given that it has separate bedrooms and is served by kitchens in each, you know, a centralized kitchen in each wing. They're not considered dwelling units. They're bedrooms considered contributing to the overall nursing care facility. And I sought legal opinion because I got that question from Maine Municipal Association on that question of whether these should be being reviewed as dwelling units or as a nursing care facility. And that opinion from them was included in the meeting packet as well for your review.
I saw that, but a nursing home, there's no way that a nursing home is similar to a recreational vehicle or a motel. I mean, we just don't really describe nursing home facilities that well in our ordinance. DHS defines a habitation as it means a structure, all or part of which is designed for human habitation, including a dwelling unit. And that nursing homes are considered residences, especially if the occupants don't have another residence.
It seems fairly clear to me from the definitions that we have in our land use ordinances that this would not fall under a multifamily dwelling use, given the definitions that we have for both multifamily dwelling generally, and nursing care facility. I suppose that would be sort of up to the planning board to discuss. But again, we sought legal opinion of this as a town because myself and the code enforcement officer have been reviewing this as a nursing care facility since the pre-application meeting on this project.
Jonathan, before we go any further, I'd like to, I'm going to be recusing myself from this vote for this matter. And due to lack of confusion, I will step away from the table, so I'm not considered part of the planning board at this time.
We have to vote him out.
You don't need to vote him out if he's planning to recuse, that's
Take
fine.
a seat in the audience,
Yep.
please.
Jeez. Separated them.
Hey, Jenny,
Yeah,
did you read that letter that came through in that recent packet about seeking opinion about land use definition and dwelling? Land use definition of dwelling?
well, from Rebecca McMahon of Maine Municipal, she says, it seems that the definition of dwelling unit in your land use ordinance is determinative here. It specifically states that the term shall not include recreational vehicles or motels or hotels or similar facilities not equipped with a kitchen. I just feel that a nursing home is not similar to a recreational vehicle or a motel or hotel, which are transitory dwellings. And nursing homes are often, people are in those for quite a while often.
I guess I would just add from, maybe this is getting too into the theory, but when you're deciding on a land use definition in the ordinance, you go by the definition that is, the most similar. And in this case, it has been opined by both myself and your code enforcement officer, and then also the legal services retained by the town from Maine Municipal, that it is a dwelling unit. I think that Rebecca's memo to the board summarizes the thoughts, summarizes her background on this. And then I think my initial email to her summarized myself and the code enforcement officer's determination here. I think, it's worth the discussion amongst the board members, but that's what I would add.
Sense to me.
Yeah, I've read the letter and your comment, and from my perspective, it's consistent that it should be reviewed as a nursing home facility.
Well, it definitely should be reviewed as a nursing home facility. I think that the question is, what's a dwelling? Are these dwellings? Are there people living in this facility?
That's the difference between the nursing home facility and dwelling units, though.
What,
Yes.
a central kitchen?
It has a central kitchen, yeah. Most nursing home facilities do have kitchens, central kitchens. Okay.
Well, we don't specifically say that to be a dwelling unit has to have an individual kitchen. In some ordinances of other towns, like I think Auburn, other towns in Maine do say that you have to have a kitchen. to be a dwelling unit.
What exactly does our ordinance say? You know, Isabel, word for word?
I can pull it up for you if you give me one moment. Rebecca is for the most part quoting our ordinance, our land use ordinance specifically. I'm having some trouble getting it to load, but. Are you asking specifically for the definition of a dwelling unit or dwelling?
Is this important?
Well, we have restrictions on the number of dwelling units that can be on a foundation. Like for instance, what is it, 32 for a, or 36 for a apartment building, and 40 some for a senior residence. It just gets at the question of scale of this project.
I agree. It's been that all along.
I can't remember where, I know Neil addressed it in terms of the number of acres and the number of units. And this was within that. I don't know which part of the ordinance, but I thought it was more than 102.
Well,
If you went strictly by the numbers.
there are density standards surrounding the number of units that you can have, but I mean, it would be my opinion that that wouldn't be specifically applicable here since these are not dwelling units, in the opinion of staff. A dwelling, there's a couple of pertinent definitions in my opinion. A dwelling is a building designed or used as a permanent or seasonal living quarters for one or more families. We also have dwelling unit, a room or group of rooms designed and equipped exclusively for use as permanent, seasonal, or temporary living quarters for only one family. The term shall include mobile homes, but not recreational vehicles or motels, hotels, and other similar facilities not equipped with a kitchen. I guess I just disagree with the interpretation of the dwelling unit that Jenny's bringing up. To me, as I read this, a dwelling unit does need to have a kitchen in order to be considered a dwelling unit. It's frankly worded a little bit weirdly, but that would be the way that I interpret it, and seems to be also the way that Rebecca from MMA interpreted it as well, with the emphasis added on not equipped with a kitchen.
Did you get all that, Jenny?
So we're saying also like residential care facilities. I know I mean, this also falls under residential care facility. Facility that provides residents assistance with activities of daily living, recreational activities, dietary services, medication administration, nursing services, but does not require skilled nursing care. Some residential care facilities provide specialized assisted living services, including memory care. So in addition to this being a nursing facility, it's also a residential care facility.
I guess I would go back to sort of what I was attempting to explain about the theory behind zoning and finding a land use. And by doing so, I'll read the definition of a nursing care facility, which is a facility that provides 24-hour skilled nursing services, rehabilitation, and long-term care nursing services to patients or residents. Nursing care facilities are regulated and licensed by the state of Maine. It seems to me that, you know, while there are other definitions that this potentially could fall under, the theory behind zoning and choosing a land use is that you choose the definition that it most falls under. And that would be this one in this case. And it's typically typically deference is given to the opinion of the code enforcement officer in matters such as land uses. Yeah, I guess that's what I would add in response to the question.
Um, Your definition of a nursing care facility seems very medical, and we don't allow medical uses in a rural zone. It just seems that we're saying we allow nursing care facilities, but not medical. Right? I'm just looking at the,
Well, it's really not a medical facility. I mean, it's a nursing care facility. It's a nursing home. I would assume that any medical things that had to happen, those people would have to go either to a doctor or the hospital or whatever they normally do in those instances.
yeah. Because medical and medical related facilities are only allowed conditionally in the C1 district or C2 district.
But nursing care facilities are allowed within the rural district.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think when we voted to allow them in the rural district, we were aware that the applicant had been working to change our ordinances to allow this use in the rural district so that the project could go forward. At least I wasn't aware.
I'm not quite sure what to say about that.
Well, there's memos from Bob Fonz, saying that he had talked with Sandy River and wanted to add some definitions and, look at our use chart.
Well, that would be a perfectly reasonable request.
Yeah, it would be. No, it's fine. It's just that as a planning board member, I didn't realize that we were changing our ordinances to accommodate a specific project.
I don't think that was the intent on anybody's part. I mean,
Well, it's neither here nor there at this point.
well, what do you think of that? What do you think of
I
that?
feel like we've been
I
in a
was not aware
circle.
that was the,
I would not aware of it
happening.
either. I mean,
When we were dealing with Bob Fonz, it was more to clarify. Because it seemed vague at that time.
well,
And I mean, there were several points that he wanted clarified.
mhm.
And he proposed them and they were accepted by the planning board, the selectmen in the town.
Mhm. Never heard anything like that at a planning board meeting.
So should we go through Isabel's findings and
I mean, the conditions,
the conditions?
page 14 through 17.
That is basically the same as a finding of facts, correct?
The findings of fact almost directly mirror my memo, except where it says staff recommends. The draft findings note that the planning board found. That would be up for your discussion, but
So I agree with Jenny in the sense that I thought that it would be important to go through the finding facts, just so that everybody,
All right.
you know, is at the same point, at the same time, and then.
Do you have a list
proceed
of
from
those,
that.
Isabel? I have the conditions.
Give you a file copy, but I need it back.
Just want to make sure that this is the same thing that
And
I
I think
got.
it starts on the next page.
So this is site plan standards all the way through.
Yeah.
So we would start at like preserve and enhance the landscape.
You want to go through each one of these one by one, Jenny? Because I can read these off.
Well, like these standards, okay, relationship to the environment and neighboring buildings. This
Uh,
project
Number 2,
is going to really affect, I mean, it's bordered by a wildlife preserve and residential dwellings. It doesn't, it's not in keeping with the character of the existing area.
I would agree, Jenny, but I don't think we can use that to make a determination according to the lawyer.
What do you mean? It's a performance, it's a standard, in our ordinance. It has nothing to do with a comprehensive plan.
Look again.
So I think if I may, Mr. Chair.
Go.
Okay. So the standard that Jenny's referring to is 102.6 and it's B in the site plan review ordinance, which is related to the relationship to environment and neighboring buildings. Proposed structures shall be related harmoniously to the terrain and to existing buildings in the vicinity, which have a visual relationship to the proposed building. Except in the downtown commercial C1 area, the following setbacks and buffers from parking areas shall be provided. For developments resulting in more than 50% of the parcel covered in impervious surface and or with a parcel size greater than 3 acres, a 30-foot minimum buffer strip from the property line to any parking and paved areas will be maintained. Then there are also standards related to the downtown commercial area, which obviously don't apply here.
That 30-foot buffer would apply to the waiver that's being requested by the applicant.
Yeah, not that I want to tell you all how to go through an application, but it might be more helpful to weigh in on the waivers perhaps before going through each of the standards of review, because some of them are, as Jenny's pointing out, intrinsically tied to the waiver requests.
Well, somewhere in this pile, I have those.
I would agree with that thought, that let's hit the waivers and.
I can find them.
So on page
You want it?
13
I
of
got it.
the,
It's okay, wait right there. We can both look at it.
there's 3 waivers.
You want me to read them off, Jenny?
Okay,
First one's a waiver pursuant to site plan review ordinance, section 102.7 to provide sidewalks within the parking areas that are 6 feet in width rather than the 8 feet in width. Required as part of this section and not to raise the sidewalks 6 inches above the travel way, which made sense. There's the waiver B is pursuant to site plan review ordinance section 102.7.
Before you run, do we want to do them all and vote on all of them or do them individually?
Maybe we should vote on them individually.
You want to do it individually?
Yeah, so
Sidewalk is pretty matter of fact, in my opinion.
Okay.
we can, I would make a motion that we accept the waiver to provide sidewalks that are 6 feet in width rather than 8 feet in width.
Second,
All those in favor, Ann,
Yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wild on, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Okay. Waiver B pursuant to site plan review ordinance section 102.7 H3, which requires the applicants to submit an economic and fiscal impact analysis, the proposed large-scale development. The applicants have provided the information on the items in this section that would be relevant to the planning board's review.
And my recollection is that that's going to be done by the state. The process, their financial capabilities will be either accepted or rejected at
Yeah.
the state review level, which being quite a project for us to take on, makes more sense that we waive that
That's
and
great.
allow the process or the application to move to that point.
Okay. Honestly,
So I make a motion that we approve the second waiver.
okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Ann, you want to start vote?
Yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wild Hunt, yes. That's a new
Jenny,
system.
yes.
Used to it.
Okay. There's also waiver C pursuant to site plan review ordinance section 102.6 B2B. With respect to the eastern property line only, the section requires the applicant to provide a 30-foot minimum buffer strip between the proposed new property line and the paved access drive.
I'm not in favor of this waiver because I think that this provision was exactly for this kind of project. It says in our ordinances, it says for developments resulting in more than 50% of the parcel covered in impervious surface and or with a parcel size greater than 3 acres, a 30-foot minimum buffer strip with undisturbed natural vegetation from the property line to any parking or paved area will be maintained. So, I mean, this provision was, there certainly is more than 50% of the parcel covered in impervious surface.
I don't know if that is true about the 50% being covered at impervious surface. That one might be a question better suited to the applicants. Although I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Please do.
Well, also the parcel size is greater than 3 acres.
We did, after the last planning board meeting, when that question was asked, we did the impervious area coverage. And the coverage is 40.6%.
40.6.
40.6, and that includes the existing road, Piper Mill Road, which is of course already built. And that's about 5%.
Okay,
of the lot coverage.
thank you.
It seemed to me that we thought this was an appropriate waiver because the applicant owned both parcels. They had a larger parcel that they were dividing, and we felt that at this point in time, with the project that we're looking at, the waiver is appropriate.
But there's no, well, actually, they have an option on the property. I don't think they actually own it. And there's no saying that they won't sell off the other parcel.
Well, we could actually, the only time that this would become an issue was if they did sell it off. And we could also, for any reason that we couldn't put something in this that said if they go to sell this property, they'd have to redistribute this property line to come in compliance with the 30-foot setback. Because that's really the issue with that. Is if it gets sold.
I guess my position would be that waivers are, at this moment. And sometime if things change, then you have to follow the rules, whatever they might be. In other words, waivers aren't permanent and, stay in place and are
Well, that
cast in
one-
granite.
That one would be though.
Right, yeah, so
That one would be.
to be clear, yeah, I mean, it would essentially allow them to construct the project as proposed without the 30-foot minimum buffer strip between the proposed new property line only. So this is with respect to that property line only. The remaining property lines meet the 30-foot buffer standard between other existing properties.
I thought the caveat was that they own both pieces.
I believe they're under a purchase and sale agreement. That was how they demonstrated right title and interest in the application.
For the entire property.
I believe so.
So I would make a motion that we approve the third waiver as presented.
I
All
will
right.
second that.
All right. We'll go through a vote. I mean, anybody's gonna buy that, it's an issue, internal issue with them. All right, Ann, you wanna start?
Yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wilder Hunt, yes.
Jenny, no.
Okay. All right, so. Site plan application. Is it that? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Now you're down to conditions. All right.
Are we gonna go through these?
You want to go through the conditions? Isabel?
The conditions or the findings,
Or you want to go through the findings? This is basically the site plan review,
whichever you want to do.
conditional use applications. Do you want to go through this site plan conditional use applications one by one, Jenny? Is that your intent?
Well, if we went through one by one, would we vote on each standard one? Would we take a vote, on each standard?
Well, we haven't in the past.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Go through each one.
Oh, we haven't in the past, you said.
We have not in the past. I mean, there's been some times when, we might have looked at it and, possibly
Well,
asked.
not all. I mean, but I think that, for instance, you were concerned about the landscape,
Buffer areas.
the buffer areas.
Mhm. I am
So
concerned.
actually, that would be, where we would address that is in the conditions. Right?
Yeah, I would think.
What I would add is, we have considered that this and made a vote that the application is complete.
We did
We
vote.
did
this
vote on the
application.
waivers, which is, the way we had done things. And now our discussion is, to vote approval.
Mhm.
So typically, or the way I would look at it, you brought up the issue of plantings, and they said that they would do,
Yeah,
whatever, the planning board feels appropriate beyond what we've already considered complete. If
Yeah.
there are other issues, I would say we should talk about them.
well, it's the buffer areas that, I mean, most of what they've done has actually been well within our ordinances. They followed it very carefully. The buffer areas, it says, let me read the buffer area part. As described further in item 1 above, buffers have been provided sufficient to meet the standards of this section. When natural features in the buffer area do not exist sufficient to screen proposed development from adjacent properties and from roadways within the proposed project, additional landscaping has been provided in accordance with this section. The buffer area plantings are diverse with multiple varieties of trees, some evergreens and shrubs being used. Condition 16 reaffirms the requirement of this section that if the landscaping dies is removed or otherwise requires replacement, is not replaced within 30 days or is seasonally required by the species, shall be considered a violation of any approval granted by this board, shall be subjected to the enforcement provisions. Fencing is provided around trash collections, blah, 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 and all mounted, ground mounted mechanical units will be similarly screened, which is fine. But like I said, some of our screening in some of the ordinances that we have is really pretty nil. And in this particular case, because they are so visible up there, it would be nice if we had a denser screening towards School Street in particular. Like I say, I'd like to see, rather than deciduous trees, something with, it's going to keep its character year round, like spruces. Firs do a good job, but they just don't live very long. They're prone to wind damage and everything else. They don't get terribly large, but a good well-spaced firs in an alternate pattern rather than just a straight line is actually a pretty good way to create a decent buffer.
Isabel, how could we put something in the conditions that reflects what Jonathan wants?
I'm trying to work out the exact language in my head, so bear with me as I say this, but it could be something along the lines of adopting an additional condition of approval that the applicants will add in additional screening. I heard between School Street and between the York property, consisting of evergreen trees. And if the planning board is desirous of wanting to see that landscaping plan, we could add a condition that they will return to the planning board specific to that landscape plan, just to show you all and get your blessing, or you can delegate that to staff, whatever you're more comfortable with. But I think that would be the condition that I would suggest in this case.
I would like it brought back to the board.
Yeah, me too. But we can, we don't have to have them leave and come back to do that. I mean, if that's a final condition on this, they could bring that plan back at a later date. Because during the construction process, they're not going to be putting any buffers in anyway. That happens at the end of the project, not the beginning. So they're a ways out from doing that anyway.
I was thinking, only because we've done it in the past to delegate this to the code enforcement officer. We can summarize what we're looking for
I kind
And
of like
then
to have the plan actually come into the town
Oh,
hall.
that's all right. I'm just telling you what I think, but that's,
Well,
you know.
just so that we have a, so we
but that's
have. the
not
plan.
that's not a, you know, issue. Or
Yeah.
It was my thought.
Is there anything else in the site plan conditional use application that you want to bring up or anybody wants to bring up? We covered most of this, in pretty good shape.
Well, again, we went through it. We said it was complete.
It is.
Well, saying that
so-
it's complete, Wilder, isn't the same as saying that it complies.
But I'm giving you my opinion that I thought it was complete and it is in good shape for a motion to approve.
I can't pick any other individual things out of this. Does anybody else want to look at this? Well, conditions. Would you?
Did we put in any conditions that the lighting be reduced substantially in the evening?
We, during the last meeting had discussion and I added it to this memo that, and I'll read you the exact verbiage that I came up with. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicants will be required to submit a plan to turn down lighting to the minimum extent practical for security purposes at night. This will need to be reviewed to the satisfaction of the code enforcement officer, town planner, and police chief prior to the issuance of the CO.
Which condition is that, Isabel?
That's number 22.
Number 22?
Now, that's exactly the way I remember it.
Yeah.
Well, it's written in the thing, so I like the fellow's comment that the cutoff lights are such that he was at a ball game and you step outside the fence and it's dark, you can't see what you're doing.
Yeah.
In other words, they work, they go to the
They do.
of the property or boundary that they're
That's another,
supposed to make safe.
that's another good argument for good screening in the front of the place, though.
Oh,
The more screening you get, the more it's gonna cut that down.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard because it takes a long time for trees to grow.
Yeah, but spruces are pretty quick. You know, people, that's why I want to see, you know, a landscape plan with, you know, something that's not gonna drop leaves. You
Right.
know, Spruces are pretty fast.
Mhm.
And they, you know, they get pretty big too, which is a good thing. So it's actually probably desirable screening. I mean.
Like a mixed evergreen screening.
I'm leaning towards spruces. I really am. And when you say mixed, what do you mean?
Well, I was thinking of hemlock. I mean, it could be,
Hemlocks, yeah. Hemlocks wouldn't do a bad job. Hemlocks are a good tree. So that could be mixed with hemlocks. Certainly
Big
could be. I'm not so hot on pine trees. You know,
Yeah.
they kind of spindly and sparse, but hemlocks would be fine. You know, something that attains some height is part of it. You know, get some height. So fast growing. Does anybody want to go through the conditions one at a time?
Since you asked it 2 or 3 times, I think I know your position, so I think I'll go with your position. Let's just take the ones that someone has a question or is not clear about.
Do you want to go through the conditions? Jenny, all of them?
most of them are fine, you know. We've discussed them before.
And
I guess, I mean, the conditions are fine. I guess I had a more, you know, my concern is that this particular use, although it's permitted in the rural zone, this project and its scale, it isn't, won't maintain the character of the rural district, you know, which is one of our one of the things that our planning ordinance, I mean, our land use. I don't know.
My opinion is at this present time, this is just my opinion, Jenny, and I hear you. That they followed pretty much all the rules to a T. And we might not like the size of it. The best thing we could probably do is this is going to be a continuing issue, is change the ordinance to reflect a different design structure on things like this and size caps. But presently, I'm not sure that we can actually make a judgment that it doesn't fit in or does fit in. It's a matter of personal taste. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not really, we obviously put a lot of thought into limiting sizes of certain types of buildings. You know, like the 32 dwelling units. You know, no building shall contain more than 32 dwelling units. I mean, that's why I brought up the whole question of dwelling units, is because this kind of evades that whole discussion, you know, because it's not, you know, maybe in some folks don't think that these are dwellings, you know, a nursing home is not. But, you know, in our ordinance, we say under single family, 2-family and multifamily dwelling units, we say no building shall contain more than 32 dwelling units, except housing for the elderly associated with extended care facilities, which shall contain no more than 45 dwellings. So thought was given to, you know, what the size of appropriate size of developments. Anyways, I'm lamenting.
I know. I hear you. I still have to call it what it is. Is there any other, you have any other questions about the conditions or anything, Jenny? Or you? Oh, wow, you
No,
don't
I
have any
think
questions.
we've talked about them.
Okay.
We have vetted them right to the pulp.
Thanks.
Again, it's my opinion.
I like your opinion sometimes. Sometimes I question it, but most of the time it's okay.
Oh, I have a question. Do we have anything in our town ordinances that limits development on private roads or requires some sort of a road, like a road association agreement? We have all this stuff on Piper Mill, which is a private road.
Well, the interesting thing about it, Jenny, is it's their road.
I know.
It is their road. So nobody has a leg to stand on with that because they own it. So if you had a private road that they didn't have, they either had right away to use it, it could be a different story, or probably wouldn't be, but you know, it depends on what was going on at that point in time. You'd have to have them produce a road association for the various people as it grows, but in this particular case, they own it.
I always think of the Heater Road as a private road, right?
It is.
And there's no road association.
I will
No,
add
but
on-
There is a road association for a certain section of it. And it was the only section that could be, there was a subdivision put out there. Past George Hutchins Trailer Park.
Yeah.
In the process of that subdivision being established, the road association was established in between all those lots. But they could not establish a road association all the way to the Heater Road because the rest of the owners did not want anything to do with it. They don't have to join in. They own their piece of road and use it. The town actually uses some of that private road.
So it's really up to the other landowners along that road, along Piper Mill Road, to,
If they want a road association, they would have to deal with the folks that own this.
right,
So that would really be up to them and not, you know, up to Clippershed or us.
so the existing road meets the standards of what is needed to support a project of this size, right?
Yeah, the road is wide enough and they're gonna add a side. They're gonna add a sidewalk right to School Street, which is a big benefit to everybody out there, honestly.
Yep.
Anything else?
How about a motion?
I want to make sure we get all the questions answered.
It's all right.
All right, Mike. Do I have a motion on this? You want to ready to make a motion on this?
I am.
You ready?
Yeah, I just want to tell Jenny that I do agree with you. But I think they have met all the criteria, so.
All right.
I will make a motion
Don't-
that we approve the application from Clippership as presented and including the conditions as written plus
Landscape.
improved landscape plan, which they will bring back to the board. And the landscape plan as has been should be predominantly evergreens along the York property and School Street.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor. Ann Jackson, please start.
Ann Jackson, yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wilder Hunt, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Okay.
You can cheer if you want.
I'm back now.
You got to stir it up. I lost everything. Well, and there's that.
You do. It's very good.
You stealing my paperwork, Wilder?
Geez, I hope not. I don't have it in front of me. I got my cell phone, though, that's loaded with information.
Yeah.
All the information in the world.
I see you do that for the other.
Classified documents. Right.
Now he's gonna go sit in the basement for the rest of all the classified documents. All right, so
I'm
now,
having some technical issues. the screen is freezing and I can't hear anybody.
Okay, hold on.
I guess I could switch to my other device, maybe.
Can you hear me now?
We're getting a notification that her network bandwidth is low.
She switched over.
I think that's what she's trying to do. She's not frozen anymore.
Okay.
Jenny, are you all set now? Can you hear us?
I think I'm back.
Yep, we can hear you and you're not frozen anymore.
Okay, okay.
All right, so on the new business, we're gonna start up at Coastal Market Drive. Conditional use application to install a refrigeration system rack in an 8 by 8 foot wide by 20 foot long, 8 foot 6 high Conex container with condenser at their business at 5 Coastal Market Drive. You're up.
They might have questions for you if you don't mind coming to sit up here. I'll just give a brief sort of overview and show your site plans.
MMR is another thing that should go through. They're listening, they'll chime in if we.
Okay.
Hopefully, so. I think you saw
Jeff, I lost my presentation. I don't know if you can still see it on my end, on your end, I mean.
I was curious, you putting this on the ground because the roof would prefer that you put it on the ground or?
No, the existing side of the building that the rack is in. If we wanted to replace that rack and put the new rack in there, we would actually have to redo building plans and roof plans for the condensing unit above. And we would have to shut down our store for at least a week and bring in one refrigerated, one frozen trailer and completely empty the store. Because it would take them, at least a week to remove all the old and put all the new in. Where this Connex unit is just a plug and play. It can be added in and removed in half a day.
Which makes sense.
A lot of common sense in that decision.
We're trying to do the common sense thing.
So, like was mentioned, they
So I have
are,
a question. Is it? So there's going to be a condenser on top of the Connex unit, right?
Yes.
And several compressors inside the Connex unit?
Yes.
Where did that unit sit on that plan anyway?
so, give me 1 second, folks. So, I might have to get up to show this, but it's sort of located at the back of the store as you drive around where the trucks go. Hancock Lumber, I think it is, has like a fence and a shed outbuilding.
Yep.
It's the really small yellow box, on the top of the site plan. And then the photo next to it is a sort of better photo about the rear of the building.
All right, I see it. I get it.
So is the trash compactor going to be moved?
It no longer exists there. It was removed last year or at least a year ago.
So, that sort of brings me to sort of the unique issue here. So the proposed project is within all bulk and spacing requirements established in the district, except for the rear setbacks. The applicants submitted a site plan from 89 showing that there was previously a trash compactor located in this location that was actually grandfathered. It was placed there before the ordinance took effect in 1994 that established setback requirements. Some of you might have been on the board then. So section 1016A1A allows for a nonconformity to be repaired, maintained, and improved, provided that there is no expansion of the nonconformity. The trash compactor was about 10 feet wide, which means that it encroached into the required setback area by about 5 feet. And then this utility structure for the refrigeration units is about 8 feet wide, and so will encroach into the setback area by 3 feet. But there is an existing unlimited use easement on the opposite property that would basically allow the driving area in the rear of the building to still be maintained, actually give them more space, considering that this is a smaller structure. That's sort of the only thing that I wanted to point out with this application. They haven't requested any waivers as part of the application. And the conditions that I've noted are essentially your standard conditions for a project of this scale that were adopted in your bylaws.
So can you have, if the, like the trash compactor has been removed, so it does invalidate the grandfathering if it's gone?
That's a good question. The same section reference here, section 1016A1A, also notes that there is a time limit on removal. So, the applicant has indicated that they removed the trash compactor sort of in preparation for this project. And the time limit on the grandfathering is a year. So a year of a use being discontinued would basically nullify this section.
Good explanation.
Okay.
And it sounds like, Isabel, that you answered this, but will there be enough room still behind, once the Connex box is set, for emergency vehicles to get behind there if needed? And
Absolutely. Footprint of this is smaller than the existing compactor that was already there with those.
what is that distance for traveling back there?
Well, how long is the unlimited use easement?
Is 10 feet, and then the setback area requirement is 15 feet, and this encroaches by 3 feet, so it would be about 22 feet.
And that's the distance from the property line, 22 feet
It's actually from the adjoining building or the adjoining area.
from Hancock or?
Yeah.
Yep. And will this unit be seen from Chapman Street?
I think Hancock's building covers it.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you stood at the right angle in the swamp that's back there, I guess if you looked around the building, you might see like right next to our dumpsters.
So screening is not going to be an option.
Yeah.
It looks like that building of Hancock's pretty much is going to cover the Connex
Yeah.
box.
Yeah,
Will your old rooftop unit be removed from the structure?
we have not made plans to do that yet. But that's something we'd have to obviously work with our building owner on what they want done with that side piece. The bottom line is our refrigeration has been a battle for our small store for a very long time. And we've come up on this unit. It was secondhand, but very good condition. And it's the proper thing for us to do financially to make sure that we don't continue to dump hundreds of thousands of dollars into the original rack, which was used when Yellowfront originally put it in 1981.
The main concern I would think would be the noise. And I was wondering if the town code enforcement officer has a decibel meter. Or we could make sure that we acquire one.
Well, I'm not sure how different that is, Jenny, than the existing that's up on the roof that's running now. They're gonna have it in a closed Connex box.
It's very likely
So-
going to be quieter.
Correct.
It's a lot newer.
Yeah, that's unit only has metal sheeting, that side unit that all of my compressors are in now.
Great.
It's just metal sheeting, so. And it's right next to Hancock and there's never been a noise issue.
Is this temporary or is this temporary permanent?
My building or my business owner has a 10-year lease. So he's in it for 10 years anyway. Technically, this unit is completely portable and movable. It can be disconnected and moved away in a half a day. But as long as it's part of the store and it's being used to run the refrigeration in the store, it will stay.
No questions I had.
Anything else, Jenny?
Well, in our town ordinance, we have the sound level limits of 55 decibels between the hours of 7 AM and 7 PM and 45 decibels between the hours of 7 PM and 7 AM. And just for the information of the board, that's actually really quiet. Like 40 decibels is considered quiet library noise. And 55 is considered normal conversation. So I just think just because of the neighborhood on Chapman Street that we should, when the unit is installed, go by with a decibel meter and just make sure that it complies. It's very easy to reduce the sound of compressors and stuff. You know what I mean? That's not a
We're
big deal if there is a problem, but.
If there's a problem, we'll do whatever insulation.
If you were, let me ask a quick question. I hear you.
I
If
just
you-
wanted to make sure that we had a decibel meter so the code enforcement officer could.
If you were to take a decibel meter reading, would you do it from Chapman Street?
No, you do it right next to the compressors.
Well,
No, the ordinance requirement is from the property line.
okay. That's from the property line, but there's a building in the way of this in between it and Chapman Street,
Mhm.
which should buffer that considerably.
Yeah.
Plus, she's also replacing an old unit for a new one, and new ones tend to be much quieter and much
Yeah.
more
No,
efficient than older ones.
it's a totally great project. You know, I'm just saying that we should, as a town, have a decibel meter. They're only $40 on Amazon.
Does the town have one, do you know?
I think that we do.
I
would
think
assume-
we do too.
I would
Okay.
assume that we do. I have a bunch of random things in my desk drawer, to be honest, so
There's an app for that.
there's probably an app.
Oh, probably on our cell phones, we could do it.
Especially-
Okay.
I bet you can do it with your
I guess
phone.
I guess to answer your question, I can't specifically confirm that, but we need to be able to address complaints. So if we don't have one, we would purchase one.
All right, do you see any reason to go in through this, pick through it any
I think it
more?
meets it with the conditions that we've had presented to us.
All right, you want to vote the application complete?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Would you like to start, Ann?
Sure. Ann Jackson, yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wilder Hunt, yes.
Neil Gansner, yes.
Jenny, yes.
So when did we institute this new form of?
When we do Zoom.
Yeah, you have to when you do it Zoom.
Jeez. I knew there's a reason.
Anyway.
Right, good.
Not quite.
Oh.
You're almost good. You're getting. You gotta go through the conditions. I don't think there's any reason to go through the conditions. I mean, it's a pretty simple
pretty standard.
project. Does anybody want to make a motion to accept this
I make a motion that we approve the project as presented
with the conditions
with the conditions
and the decibel test?
and the decibel test.
I'm cool with it. The town ought to have one.
Is that an additional condition of approval or
I-
just?
Do you
Following
want to push that
condition
one,
6.
Jenny? Or are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, then
Yeah, I was
do
gonna
away
say,
with that. We just,
We have it in the, it's in the conditions.
Yeah, it's a number 5.
and
So
it's,
then comply with it.
complains about it, we can send the code enforcement officer out and deal with it at that time if there is one, but I don't think there's any need for her to jump through
I don't-
another
probably
hoop
not.
that she does not have.
No, that's
Agree.
fine.
I agree with you.
Okay.
So. we need a
Okay.
New motion.
Yeah, did you cross that decibel thing off the end of that motion?
Go ahead.
Want me to say it again? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, say it again.
I think I move that we approve the project as presented with the conditions as listed.
Okay, do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Ann, would you like to start?
Yep, Ann Jackson, yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wilder Hunt, yes.
Neil Guthrie, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Now you.
Now you.
Thank you guys
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for sticking around.
Oh, no problem. Just glad to be one step closer.
Okay.
Thank
Last thing up. Last thing up is site plan amendment application to install a holding tank rather than connecting to the public sewer as originally approved at 276 Main Street. The applicant, Damascotta Region Chamber of Commerce. Are you just here for the fun of it? I thought you might have something to do with this. Well, as long as they stay. I mean, as long as they comply with any state requirements, I mean.
I mean, there are a set of rules and regulations for holding
Well,
tanks,
there
right?
are, and this is a half,
So
it's a half bath, not a house.
Yeah.
It's kind of a specialty case. I mean,
So in this case, because the planning board had previously approved a site plan and a utility plan that showed connection to the public sewer system, they're essentially coming for an amendment to the previously approved plan in order to install the holding tank. Sorry for the late breaking addition to the packet this afternoon. They had sent over sort of a hand-drawn amendment to the original plan showing the location of the proposed holding tank. The planning board needs to vote on the amendment to the overall utility plan, but they will be subject to subsurface wastewater disposal program rules and will need to get a permit from the code enforcement officer, who will also need to go inspect it. I think you all are familiar with this project. It was approved exactly a year ago today, actually, at the corner of Main Street and Vine Street for the chamber. Here's the plan. I don't have a lot more to add. This is technically a waiver of, yep, that's not the right presentation. This is technically a waiver of section 102.6 R2 in order to install the holding tank rather than connecting it to the public sewer system. That section does require connection to the public sewer system, but the applicants had submitted a number of information, a number of points and information about the presence of ledge and existing fiber optic cable within Vine Street that they sort of would be nervous about digging into without a thorough understanding of what's under there or how far the fiber optic cable is below the street. Seth Hager is the contractor on this. He was planning to be here tonight, but actually is at another event, but did provide a cover letter that I'm happy to read as well.
saw it.
Great.
Get it?
Other than that, staff is recommending approval of this amendment with the 6 conditions that I noted in the packet.
And they have verified that there's a place for the holding tank, that doesn't have ledge.
Yeah, they did.
Yep, it's this area right here. The sort of the black box and highlighted area right next to the building.
Okay.
And my only question, and one of them got answered, is where the packet that we got didn't show where the tank was going, but the one today does. So I'm all set with that. The other one I have is, do we know a cost? Did they explore what it would cost to remove ledge to do that? Because everything I'm reading is it's a financial burden to them to go that route. I have no doubt that it probably would be expensive, but has a number been given?
They didn't provide a specific number within the application materials. The number that has been thrown around is anywhere between $50,000 and $60,000 to do the blasting and the digging, and that doesn't include any of the work to dig around the fiber optic cables in Vine Street.
And if blasting doesn't interfere with that to
Right.
begin with. And I don't have any other questions other than, should we make it part of our conditions? In the letter, it talks about this being a temporary solution. should we put a timeline on this of 2 years and then have them come back? We've done that before with Rising Tide, where they had to come back to us, and if they haven't got it done, they got to give us a realistic plan of when they expect to have it done. But I think it's a condition that could be added in.
Yeah, I will just say the reason I didn't add a condition is because they indicated also in the cover letter that they would have to raise funds to do that work of further connection or exploring other connections. And I didn't, they didn't provide a timeline. If the board wants to look at a realistic timeline for them to at least come back with an update for you all, I think that would be more than appropriate.
They raised money relatively quick to do what they were gonna do. I think if we do a 2-year, nothing saying that they can't move forward with the project. I think if we put a time limit on it, at least it's gotta come back to us, figure out where they're at, and if we have to add more time to it, we can, but I think we owe it to that.
How about 3 years? I know a little bit about some of the reasons they can't go where they want to go. There's also a huge grounding bank around that telephone
Correct.
office. They can't
Correct.
dig around that either.
But-
And the nearest sewer line, you can correct me, is actually down past Lee Parsons building. We passed Michelle Phelps, right? And then the next building, which was a pot shop now,
On the Main Street. there's
on the
one.
Main Street side, they were talking about going from the Main Street side.
Correct, and that's where the letter talked today about getting money to tie into that.
Hmm.
And that's, and again, I don't know if what the magic number is timeline, but I think we need to put a time on it.
All right.
And make that a condition number 7.
All right. Yeah.
They ended up cutting down all the trees.
Yeah, they did. No, there's a lot of stories flying around down there.
Jonathan, obviously that tank is gonna have to be accessible from the top for them to pump
Yes,
that out, so
yeah,
that's just
it
gonna be in the lawn area beside the walkway, if I looked at that correctly.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, absolutely has to be accessible.
Great.
Well, a lot of them, they put a, put on it, with a cover they can take off on the left, something like that, it's usually about grass level or whatever. Some of them are right close to the top.
All right, so I retract that. I do have one more. Is there anything on those tanks that will be monitored so that someone knows when it's getting to a high limit before it overflows and there's an issue?
They should be putting an alarm system in it.
Should
which
be
is-
and doing is 2 different things.
They should put an alarm system in it.
So can we add number 8? That the holding tank be monitored so that we don't,
The alarm systems are cheap, they're under $100. But yeah, I mean, there's
So
no
that we
reason
don't
that
have a
can't, that,
raw sewage out on the ground?
I mean, you could put a condition down there that the holding tank be alarmed. I think you're right.
And
I think that's
maintained.
I think that's a good thing to do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a real good idea. You want to make another condition on that, Isabel?
Yep.
All right, I'll stop.
That was actually a really good idea, honestly. That
I
was
have it
brilliant.
once in a while.
That was brilliant. Very good. But most of them are, people wait till the toilets start backing up. Then go, oh, no.
Yeah.
They call them up.
So I'm a little unclear on the timeline. Is there an agreed upon timeline that you're all looking
3
at?
years.
3?
Yeah, 3 years.
I just think it's something that we have to look at again, and if it's
Yeah.
3 years for them to raise money, if they do it sooner than that, it's a non-issue, but.
Yeah.
So this is one where you'll have to formally accept the waiver request before voting on the application, if that's where you're going.
I mean, to grant
The waiver,
Right, to install the holding tank in that area.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we accept the waiver number 1 for the chamber project to install a holding tank rather than connect to the public sewer system.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, Ann,
Ann Jackson, yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wild Hunt, yes.
Neil Gethner, yes.
Jenny Beegan, yes.
Okay. The application was complete, so
Did Neil have another waiver or not?
No, just the timeline and the monitoring.
Yeah,
Okay,
So there are 8
All right.
total.
I get you.
anybody want to make a motion to accept this?
I move that we accept this application with the 2 additional waivers,
And, yeah, all conditions.
all conditions and the 2 additional conditions, sorry, not waivers.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ann, would you like to start?
Yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wilder Hunt, yes.
Neil Gaffney, yes.
Jenny Beegan, yes.
I was.
Okay. The only thing we got left is review the meeting minutes for December 5th, 2022. But he make a motion on those two?
I wasn't here.
I'll make a motion that we accept them as presented.
Second,
Okay, I'll start. Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wilder Hunt, yes.
Neil Gaffney, yes.
Jenny Beegan, yes.
Okey-doke.
Last time she was vegan, this time she was bacon.
I do have one, findings of fact and conclusions of law document for you all to sign from the, 95 Biskie Road project that was approved at the last meeting, but wasn't signed.
Should I come into the office and sign it? Well, I don't know, I'm kind of COVID-y.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I would rather you didn't. We have a majority here, so they can sign,
Sorry.
but thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, again, Jonathan, I take my hat off to you. You got us through it without a fight, so.
You want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, let's make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second, so moved. All those in favor, Ann?
Oh, Ann Jackson, yes.
Jonathan Eaton, yes.
Wilder Hunt, yes.
Neil Gaffney, yes.
Jenny Beegan, yes.
Okay, there we go.
We did it, we did it, we did it.